December 22nd, 1944. In the history of the Second World War, few moments capture the fragility of military certainty as clearly as this one. Inside German Army Group B headquarters, housed in what had once been an ordinary farmhouse, the war has reduced comfort to a memory. The windows are blacked out. The stone walls, built for a farming family and not for war, do nothing to hold back the cold. Every officer in the room can see his own breath curling upward into the lamplight. Oil lamps cast long shadows across a map table crowded with pins, grease pencils, and cups of ersatz coffee, long since gone cold. Outside, the artillery fire has not stopped for days. It has become background noise, a low, constant tremor in the earth that the men inside have learned, almost unconsciously, to ignore. This is the setting for one of the quieter turning points of the Battle of the Bulge. Not a battle fought with tanks or infantry, but one fought with paper, radio signals, and assumptions. A radio operator crosses the floor of the command room. He moves too quickly for regulation, his boots cracking against the frozen boards in a rhythm sharp enough to draw the attention of the duty officers before he even reaches the table. There is no formal salute, no pause to be acknowledged. He simply extends the decoded intercept toward Field Marshal Walter Model and waits. Model takes it. He reads it once, standing motionless. The stillness of a man who already suspects the news is bad and is, for a moment, delaying the instant he has to know for certain. Then he reads it again, more slowly, as though a second reading might somehow rearrange the words into something less alarming. It does not. The words remain exactly as they were. American armor, Third Army markings, engaging German positions at Martelange, 20 kilometers south of Bastogne. Model's eyes move from the paper to the wall map without his head turning, the way a person looks at something they would rather not confirm. The pins are still there, arranged in neat rows, marking the positions of General George S. Patton's divisions near Metz, 100 miles away, exactly where they had been 2 days earlier, exactly where German intelligence had told him they would remain for at least another week. But the intercept in his hand does not answer to the pins on the map. According to what Model is now holding, Patton has pivoted an entire army 90 degrees in under 3 days. Not a reconnaissance patrol, not a probing feint. An army already on the ground, already engaged, closing in on Bastogne from the south, in a direction German planning had assumed would remain empty road and frozen farmland for days to come. The 7-day buffer, the single number the entire offensive had been built around, is no longer shrinking. It is gone. German intelligence had staked this operation on that window. The time they believed it would take Patton to disengage his forces, redeploy them, and strike north before Bastogne fell, and the 101st Airborne Division was crushed inside it. In this moment, in Model's hands, that window collapses. There is no dramatic explosion to mark it, no single visible event that historians could later point to on film. It happens quietly, in the space of a man rereading a single page. And with it, Adolf Hitler's last major offensive in the West begins, from this point forward, to die. For a long moment, Model says nothing. Around him, the staff officers sense that something has shifted, though none of them yet understand what. Model folds the intercept once, carefully, almost as if the paper itself carries a physical danger, and places it on the table beside the map. To understand how the German High Command arrived at this moment, convinced, only days earlier, that time was firmly on their side, it is necessary to go back 3 weeks, to Berlin, and to the war room of the Reich Chancellery. There, the plan had looked clean, almost elegant in the detached way military plans can appear elegant when they exist only as lines on paper rather than as columns of exhausted men in the snow. Hitler's commanders had gathered around a long table buried beneath maps of Belgium and Luxembourg. Maps worn soft at the creases from repeated handling, layered with red and blue markings like a puzzle still being solved. The strategy itself was brutal in its simplicity. Strike through the Ardennes forest, terrain the Allies considered unsuitable for a major offensive. And it was precisely that assumption the Germans intended to exploit. Split the Allied front into two disconnected halves. Seize Bastogne, the vital road junction controlling nearly all movement through that part of Belgium. Then push forward to the Meuse river crossings before Allied command could recover its balance and respond in force. General Alfred Jodl stood over the table during these sessions, tracing the offensive's phased objectives across acetate overlays with a grease pencil, each line drawn with the confidence of a man stating settled fact rather than forecasting an uncertain future. Breakthrough by December 17th. Bastogne by the 23rd. The Meuse river crossings by the 27th. On paper, the schedule read almost like a train timetable. Model, studying the blue markers that represented American positions, did not speak for some time. When he finally did, he asked the one question upon which the entire plan actually depended. How long before Patton counterattacks from the south? It was Colonel Horst Stumpf of Foreign Armies West, the German military intelligence branch responsible for assessing Allied forces in the West, who answered. He spread a set of reconnaissance photographs across the table, tapping each one in turn, building his case with the confidence of a man who believed the numbers were simply not in dispute. Patton's Third Army, he explained, was fully committed to a grinding offensive in the Saar region, roughly 90 miles southeast of Bastogne, extracting 6 divisions from active combat, wheeling them 90 degrees north and moving them over roads buried under winter snow, was not something any army, however capable, however aggressive its commander, could accomplish in a day, or 2, or 3. His estimate, 7 days at minimum. More realistically, 10. Even Patton, whose reputation for speed and aggression was already well known within the German command, could not simply overpower logistics and geography by force of will alone. The calculation was accepted as sound. Hitler approved the plan without significant objection. Model returned to his forward headquarters that night, carrying operational orders built on a single foundational assumption. That time, in this offensive, belonged to Germany. History would show, however, that in war certainty is almost always the first casualty. Long before the first soldier falls, the first assumption breaks. By mid-December, deep within a frozen pine forest behind the front lines, Model's mobile headquarters, a converted command bus, its windows fogged from the accumulated breath of too many staff officers crowded inside, still carried that same borrowed confidence. The German offensive had, by this point, torn a 50-mile bulge into the Allied line, a gap the Americans had not yet managed to close. Bastogne itself was completely encircled. Inside the town, the 101st Airborne Division held its position while its ammunition supply dwindled, and from the German vantage point surrounding the town, it appeared to be a matter of days, not weeks, before that position gave way entirely. Inside the bus, staff officers gathered each morning around the operations map, marking the previous day's advance in red grease pencil, the line creeping steadily westward like something with its own momentum. Far to the south, the blue markers denoting Patton's Third Army remained fixed exactly where they had been for days, along the Siegfried line, stretching from Thionville to Saarbrücken, untouched, uninvolved. precisely where the original plan predicted they would stay. Each morning's briefing arrived at the same reassuring conclusion. Patton's 6 divisions, the reports confirmed, remained heavily committed to intense combat against fortified German positions in the Saar. Redeploying them would require formal authorization from Allied Supreme Headquarters, a large-scale redistribution of fuel and supplies, and the considerable logistical task of moving thousands of vehicles across roads buried in Belgian snow and ice. By the Wehrmacht's own internal calculations, 7 days remained the absolute minimum required. Model's operations staff pushed the estimate further still, projecting that Patton could not possibly reach the area before December 28th, perhaps not even before the 30th. By that point, German planners believed Bastogne would already have fallen. German lines would have advanced nearly 40 miles farther west, consolidated, resupplied, and dug in. Any eventual American counterattack, whenever it arrived, would meet not an exposed German spearhead, but a fully reinforced defensive line built specifically to withstand it. This was the picture model carried with him through those December days. The picture that made this farmhouse command room, on the evening of December 22nd, such a striking place to witness history changing course, because everything that had seemed certain only weeks earlier, the math, the timetable, the 100 miles of separation between Patton and Bastogne, was, in this single moment, being proven wrong.